Hey everybody, it's SavageLandsnews coming in this time after our second Savage community draft event this last Thursday. It was so much fun. A lot of really talented individuals on there, both on the content creator side and some amazing flesh and blood players, right? This last week we had Clay from Canada Nationals and writer for the Rathe Times, Ethan, Sant on YouTube, Pankaj, Ethnic Smoke on YouTube, Justin, Team Foundry member. He has his own YouTube channel called Card Salad. Sam from 3 Floating, Andrew from Dice Commando, and Jay from On the Bauble. So some really high skilled players, some really good content creators. So you should go check it out. Again, live stream was on Sant's channel and Jay's channel On the Bauble. Unfortunately, I forgot to wire my Discord into my sound this time around. So I unfortunately don't have the end discussion where we all reviewed our decks, our decisions, and what we learned and what we didn't like about what we did. That is some of the most valuable content, in my opinion, if you're looking to become a better draft player this season. There are 2 of those. One's on my channel. Go find that draft video, scoot to the end, and you can watch it. And then again, you can find it at the end of Sant's live stream and Jay's live stream and On the Bauble. Listen to it. Both of those have amazing insights and amazing content for you to learn and get better at this game. So instead of just repeating what everybody did with no audio, I'm going to deep dive into the pods, the packs I picked from, the cards, my rationale onto why, and then the 3 games I played with Uzuri this week and what I was going through my head, how I was thinking, and how I ended up winning that pod this week, okay? So I'll see you guys there. Let's jump right into those packs, okay? So jumping right into it, right? So this was our first pack. In this set in particular, it seems that staying open for a long time doesn't feel as detrimental as it did in the last set, right? In the last set, if you stayed open, a lot of the time you kind of lost, right? You'd end up having to kind of be squeezed into ice or squeezed into powerful Dromai cards, or you would be switching to Phi too late against other players who had picked one Phi, and they had better Phi cards than you do, right? But in a set, you can really stay open for a long time thanks to the plethora of generic cards, the plethora of hybrid cards. So it's pretty easy. Once you just keep picking generics for a while, then you can pick your kind of hybrid cards, and then you can like really lean into your final choices as a hero. So this pack, I ended up choosing a Rabble. Mostly because I do really enjoy having one solid, good Rabble for go again in the middle of the game. It does keep up a lot of pressure. And you don't really see any other cards in this pack that are like absolutely powerful, right? We have one red Wreck Havoc, which is pretty good, and Virulent Touch, which I do love that card a lot. But I didn't want to commit to Ranger Assassin in the first pack of the set. A red Rabble kind of is on equivalent power there, and there's not really another red in this card pack that's that nuts, right? So we chose Rabble, and then here was actually a mildly hard decision, because for me, Destructive Deliberation is one of the sickest cards in this set. It's one of my favorites. 2 for 5 with an on hit is just kind of nuts. Ponder tokens are really strong, but you know what? Threadbare Tunic is actually really busted. Probably one of the only pieces of equipment that's usable outside of like just prevention. Okay, so this is a really strong tunic, so that's why I went with it. Lace with Frailty is another one of those cards that is pretty high on the pick list if you're going Ranger. So we're kind of also possibly sending some signals, like if I'm leaving this Ranger card here, I might be signaling that I'm open, or I've already picked another class, right? So I wasn't intending on playing Ranger this set. I'd played it in the last pods. So I'm kind of sending a signal, right? And then boom, we're going to continue on with this thing, right? We're sending another signal here with Lace with Blood Rot. I could have just instantly picked Ranger at this point, had a pretty sick deck, right? But you'll see that me signaling that Ranger is this open led to 2 people around me giving me a lot of the cards in the end that I wanted. But aside from that, Feisty Locals, I love this card so much. Like this in my opinion is like a first pick while you're still open. The Feisty Locals is a game closer. I used it basically in every one of the games. It's just so efficient at ripping cards out of their hand at the end when you're trying to Kodachi lock people, right? And then we already had Threadbare Tunic. So this was kind of one I noticed in this pack, right? Look how many Ranger cards. So I know I sent the signal, and I was kind of worried about pivoting the Ranger here because I've already like sent how clear Ranger seems to be open. But looking at the other cards, Be Like Water Yellow is pretty okay for Benji. Sedate, there being only one assassin card left, kind of was like, okay, maybe assassin's being taken, so maybe I do have to pivot. And I actually really like, it's weird, but I really do like the blue buff cards for Ranger because it does leave you threat density in the second half of the game, third cycle, whatever, where you can actually come in here with like a buffed arrow that is harder to block with all those blues. So I actually really like blue fetch because you're going to pitch it for a cycle, second cycle it's going to come around, and then suddenly they can't block with all those blues they pitched, and you're going to send a detrimental on hit, and that's how you can kind of really close a game with Ranger. So keep that in mind. But then, you know, this one kind of caught me off guard a little bit. Like suddenly Ranger cards are gone. So I was like, okay, we are not going to go to Ranger. We sent too much of a signal to our left. There's no way I'm going to be able to make a decent Ranger deck anymore. Those cards are for sure going to get eaten by somebody. Somebody's already started to take some Ranger cards possibly. And I really value combat tricks really high in this set. So Razor's Edge just being a 0 for 3 is really strong. But you'll notice a lot of ninja cards are left. So it's kind of, there's some really mixed signals going on in this pod so far. But it's starting to come together. Now that this pack is here, we know Ranger was a little open, but it's probably being consumed by somebody to my left. A Prowl is still on the table, which means that Assassin is like mildly drafted probably so far. We have some like some kind of below average generics, and now the ninja cards are actually kind of drawing up. So very interesting. But Blood Rot Trap is busted. Even if you don't get the effect, I honestly think defense reactions in this set are nuts. If you can get a Blood Rot off of this trap, it's absolutely crazy. It's basically coming in for a 0 for 5. But even just having a defense reaction in your arsenal for a while is very valuable. So at this point, I was kind of looking at it and I was like, you know what? I have enough generics. I have some nice hybrid cards coming now. I'm probably leaning Assassin. The red cards are being snatched up, so I'm probably going to be leaning Uzuri. So I'm going to want to start drafting blues and stealth cards. Just keep in mind though, my draft fab is always kind of busted. So I actually get shorted a lot of cards. I think I ended up with like only 38 cards in my entire draft. So that means other people at the table were getting a couple more and I was getting shorted on some of my packs, but that's okay. Here I took another combat trick, short and sharp. It's a blue you can pitch to the bottom that does 1 damage on a dagger, meaning that your opponents have to, once they see you've pitched this, they have to fear your dagger for the rest of the game to kill them at 2. I like that, right? And then here's where I really committed. You know, I left this signal way too, there's definitely Rangers to my left, so I'm not going to compete with them for these cards anymore. So now I need to start grabbing some stealth cards. And again, on Uzuri, since I'm kind of going into it late, I know I'm going to get stuck with a lot of blues and yellows, but I don't mind that on Uzuri because daggers are how you win the game, okay? So we're going to take our yellow stealth cards here, and then we're stuck with a toxicity. Blue, we're honestly never really going to use this card, but it's better than peace of mind, so I'll take it. We grab our mask because we've already kind of chosen. We're leaning definitely on Assassin at this point, so we'll take our mask. Just blocks 1 most of the time, but honestly, you can use its trigger to pretty decent effect. I did it in one of my games that you'll see later. Didn't have a swap target, played mask, got my swap target, right? Then just going to take this peace of mind, probably won't use it. Okay, so now that we know we've committed to Assassin, we have some interesting choices here, right? We have Infectious Host, which I really do like. Blue Death Touch, which is pretty decent. Seek Horizon, which is just a nice go again. And that's really about it. Like a Prowl is not very useful for us aside from being a stealth card. Come to Fight is decent as a blocking card against the Mirror and against Arachne. But this card can actually close games pretty well. Switching tempo, like if your opponent gives you a couple tokens, you just play Infectious Host for 4 after a dagger or something like that. And then you send them all of your tokens. It's actually pretty decent. The second highest priority here would either be Seek Horizon or Death Touch, in my opinion. And then boom. Okay, so this is actually a pretty tough pack to choose from as an Uzuri player. We don't have very many closing cards, but Destructive Deliberation, Death Touch, and Infiltrate are all here. My only fear was that by taking Death Touch, I'd send a decent signal. Maybe somebody who was kind of on the fence about being Assassin, and they'd be like, oh, this card's making it to me, right? I was worried about that, but Death Touch is just too good. Always take Death Touch, right? And now I'm desperately looking for stealth cards because I don't have very many. I would much rather take this Virulent, but I'm worried about stealth density at this point, and a blue stealth card is just not bad to have. So yeah, looking at our list real quick, right? We have Combat Trick, stealth card, stealth card, stealth card, stealth card. So we're only at 4. We want at least 8. Blood Rot Trap, just good. Swap target with Death Touch, Virulent Touch coming there at the end. It's Assassin Dagger pitch and then use it at the end of the game. Death Touch blue coming in for a 4. And then Toxicity, which we probably won't play with. Peace of Mind, which we won't play with. Blue Fletcher Tail won't play with. And then 2 nice solid generics. So we need a couple more stealth cards, and we definitely want some more closing cards. And then this choice was pretty simple. This card says Dominate on it. We're going to put that in our bag. There's no other reason. It's really strong. Sneak Attack is a good combat trick. Swap target, right? You can play it and then, activate some sort of attack reaction, or you can swap it with a stealth card and it comes in for 6. So we're looking for more closer cards. Short and Sharp Red is so strong. Okay? Like, if your opponent is at 4 health and you play a dagger, they have to be worried they will die. That is so strong. So strong. So Short and Sharp, even as just like a mid-game combat trick, if you have enough combat tricks where you chip away 10 damage, that means that your chip damage towards the end is just going to be too much, right? But this card closes games. We're here just looking for more stealth cards. At this point, Frailty, in my opinion, has a higher value than Inertia. We could have gone for a Destructive, but I really don't want to like chip in 1 damage on a Ponder. I'd rather have more Kodachi fuel. And then this pack, we were looking at Blood Rot Traps. Again, I told you why I like traps so much. They're so strong. Sneak Attack at least comes in for 5 as a blue, which is decent. It's way better than this stealth card. And, Freewheeling Renegades, unfortunately, is pretty bad in this format. Nobody eats 6, right? And then here we're looking for another stealth card. Passing a lot of these is kind of hurting me, but we have 1. So, we're okay passing it. I just need more stealth cards. Looking for scrap. With the amount of blue stealth cards we have, this is basically always active throughout the entire game. 4 go again, then you can dagger, then you can stealth, and then you can swap it. It's pretty sick play, right? That's a pretty sick play. Looking for scrap is really good. We don't really have any other option but to go with this yellow. It is what it is. And then Scale Peeler is pretty much useless in this format, so we're going to take another blue stealth card. And we got lucky and ended on a blue stealth card. So what does that mean? There's probably only 1 other assassin at this table, which is great for us, right? And our person to our left is definitely a ranger, is what we noticed. So, like I said, we have 1 decent stealth target here, kind of. We have Seek Horizon, but honestly, Short and Sharp is just having 2 of those. We have 6 free damage sitting in our deck with an on hit from our daggers. That's kind of nuts. And now we need to start prioritizing swap targets. So we had a 2 for 6 here that we could block with from Arsenal. We had a red Rabble here, which I said is pretty good, but now we're getting kind of blue heavy. And then Destructive Deliberation, which is a 2 for 5. So basically chip in 2 damage a lot of the time and get a Ponder token, which is pretty sweet. Another combat trick is what I valued in this one. We could either choose Short and Sharp or Razor's Edge, but I do like the 0 for 2. It's nice. We already have 2 red Short and Sharps and a blue one, so we'll go with the Razor's Edge here. Again, we need more swap targets. So here in this pack, I'd probably want to pick one of these 3, Blood Rot, Wither, or Sneak Attack, but we need more swap targets. So that's why I went with Sneak Attack. Again, Destructive Deliberation is gas. Need swap targets. This card says Dominate on it, so it doesn't matter what anything else in this pack says. This card says Dominate on it. It doesn't matter what anything else in this pack says. This card says Dominate. right? Pretty easy, almost zero thought in those 3 picks. And then out of these cards, we have enough blue stealth cards. We have enough stealth cards in general. So I'll just take my either Chain Ender with Seek Horizon or my Go Again option. And then we're stuck with another one of these plunge yellows, but it is what it is. Take another stealth card, and then you see it got all messed up there, and I just got to pick from one stealth card. Okay, so let's dive into my list real quick, and I'll show you what it looks like in Fabry real fast. See there. So we've drafted a successful, in my opinion, Uzuri deck, right? Not very much equipment though, right? But we have Threadbare Tunic, which is really strong, Mask, which is either a block or it does have a useful ability on it, to be honest, right? So our equipment, we don't have Prevention, which is our main drawback, honestly, of this deck. So if we get stuck at that 1Z, 2Z level and we get hit with something that we can't deal with, like a dagger throw, like Hurl, we die instantly. Unfortunately, that's just how it went. I prioritized too many cards over Seeker stuff, so I could have gotten trapped by a Hurl if it came down to it. But the main deck here, we got 2 Blood Rat Traps. I went over why those are so strong. We have swap targets here, Death Touches and Destructive Deliberations, which are pretty nuts to have this many of them. Feisty Locals, which is just a sick generic. We have our 4 Dominate targets here, which with Uzuri is nuts. Another really strong Go Again card. 2 Combat Tricks with Razor's Edge, another Go Again card / Combat Ender, 2 more Combat Tricks with Short and Sharp, and then we got, a bunch of stealth cards here, Wither, Infects, Maligns. One more really pretty good Go Again card, 1 for 4 Go Again, and we have so many blues that it'll work. 2 Plunges, which is unfortunate that they're just meh, right? But if you pitch a blue for this, it's 2 Go Again and makes your dagger. So it's kind of like a 3 Go Again for 1, kind of. And daggers do have an on hit, so it's not that bad. And they pitch yellow. 3 more stealth cards are sneak attacks that come in for 6, and then 1 that comes in for 5. And then Virulent, which is just going to be looping until the end of the game where we stick them with a Blood Rod at the end and kind of really disrupt them. And I ran 34 cards in every single matchup because I never know if my opponent's going to try and pile me, so I do like to have a couple more than 30 in my list. I would have ran more if I could have, but I kind of got shorted on some of those cards. And then Toxicity is basically useless because her hero ability doesn't really interact with this card. And I only really had like 2 Razor's Edges, so like maybe I could have gotten this off, but a blue one that blocks 2 is just not that good, and then Peace of Mind blue just isn't that good. So that's the deck. It's actually really good. And you'll see throughout these games that it performed the way I kind of intended. Isolate really carried me. Rabble carried me quite a bit. And then obviously Death Touch and Blood Rot Trap, Short and Sharp, kind of bought me a lot of time. So let's dive into those games. We have 3 games. Like I said, I ended up winning all 3 of them. So you guys will see how I did that. Let's jump into it. Okay, so our first match is against Arachne. Arachne is really good at hitting you with multiple on hits and having attack reactions. And this is against Sam over on 3 floating, right? So I ended up going first. I actually really like to go first on Uzuri. Just because I threaten so much trickery and daggers. And so it's like I can get a lot of chip in and just eat their cards. So I didn't draw enough blues, weirdly enough, here to like dagger do something. But I would have loved to do dagger feisty locals here and just rip their whole hand. That would have been awesome. Set them back a couple of cards in case they're trying to go to the fatigue style. But we have a dominate card in Rabble. And I just didn't really want to throw away that dominate card. It's just free damage. And so sticking a Rabble in Arsenal here, Isolate and Arsenal here means that for the rest of the game, if I pull a combat trick, Isolate can come out of my arsenal and trigger my hero ability, right? And we drew pretty decent cards down there. Another dominate target, looking for scrap. Unfortunately, we don't have a blue 1 cost or 1 power in our arsenal yet, so looking for scrap isn't going to do anything this early. So I just sent my armor at it immediately. I kind of expected a combat trick here. Yeah, see. Kind of knew it was coming. Got an inertia token. Luckily for us, inertia isn't that good. Just means we have to dump our whole hand, which is pretty easy. But now they're threatening us with a dagger, which we're just going to take because our hand is pretty good, right? And then Wither. Ooh, gross, right? Not our favorite thing in the world here. So I'm just considering, the dagger did hit. Frailty does kind of ruin our day a little bit here. Because I would have loved to send a dagger, but it's like, okay, we'll just prevent the damage. Looking for scrap is probably too greedy at this point. So we have a pretty clean play. Rabble into dominate into destructive deliberation. Look at that ponder token. And we can layer the ponder or the tokens at the end here. So inertia will trigger first and then we'll draw off ponder. So there's no loss here. So boom, 3 dominate. Ripping a card out of our opponent's hand on the rabble. He took 1 damage. And now they're going to have to consider, like, are they going to take 6 with an on hit maybe? Are they just going to take 3? They don't really know what's in our hand. And that's really what the power of Uzuri is. Because I could be threatening basically nothing, right? I could be threatening just 3. But I could also be threatening 6 with an on hit. So it's really hard to play against Uzuri. They decide to block 3. Going to combat trick. Swap in destructive deliberation, get that 2 free chip damage in, get that ponder. And then we're going to end. Layer the tokens in the right way. It's backwards on Talishar for some reason. So, you know, get that boom, free 3 damage in our arsenal. That's such a good card to have in our arsenal. And he's threatening us with a dagger and probably a 3-cost attack or a 3 damage attack, most likely with an on hit. So I'm just considering, do I block here? We do have a lot of blues and a lot of yellows, so it is kind of not the best here because we didn't draw like a beefy attack to swap in. And then boom, we get hit with an infect. So it's like, okay, we'll just throw our hand at this probably. No need to take damage here, especially a blood rot. That's going to come in for 2 additional. So here we're looking just a dagger. Play infect. If they don't overblock, then we'll combat trick in and hit them with our own blood rot, right? So our opponent's just going to think for a little bit here, what they're going to block with, or how much damage they're really willing to give me, how good their hand possibly is, right? But yeah, a couple times they really go down into the tank. I mean, the set has really got a lot to think about, right? This set is really about a lot of micro decisions. So, you know, you really have to be perfect with your plays because like almost all games come down to like 1 to 2 health, right? So they take the dagger. Then we play infect for 1. And we have a +3 in our arsenal. So it's kind of like no matter what, we're going to get what we want here. Because if they overblock, we just keep it in our arsenal. And if they underblock, we give them a blood rot. Right? And some chip. So not bad. And the dagger hits, so his cards aren't going to block that much. Yep, only coming in for 2. Going to make it a 4. Oh, and then they got the brush off. So our combat trick is wasted. Don't give him the blood rot. Unfortunate for us, but hey, you know, that's fine, I guess. We're just purging their deck a little bit. They are winning the fatigue battle, kind of. They're going to draw up to 4, so they'll probably actually be a little bit below us. But we have a really good hand here. Short and sharp, isolate, sneak attack. So we can play dagger, pitch blue, short and sharp it, isolate, sneak attack. This is like a delicious turn. So strong, actually. Because no matter what, they kind of lose here. Yeah, it's such a good turn, right? So our opponent's going to go into tank a little bit, see how much damage they really want to take. Again, how much can they really do with 5 cards? I mean, in this set, it's really hard to use all 5 cards a lot of the time. A lot of the time, it is really hard to like have a really monstrous 5-card hand. So they block. We're going to short and sharp it. We're going to make it hit, get 2 free chip damage in. So now that cards block even less. Then we're going to throw in a dominate card. Coming in for 2. We're going to throw a card down. Then we're going to swap in sneak attack, right? So pretty good play. They're down to 13. Those combat tricks are putting in a little bit of work. Unfortunately, they had the brush off there to stop us last turn, but that's okay. But yeah, our opponent's going in the tank again because it's really hard to play against Uzuri, like I said. Half the battle is like their own mind. Because like, what can I possibly hit them with, you know? And that's really what they have to think about this entire time. So they go in the tank. You know, it's just, I'm threatening a lot of damage. 6 damage right now would put them so low. Like you can't take 6 damage every turn in this format. Like you just can't. And since it's dominate, that means the max they're really going to be able to block is 3. If they don't have, if they have a non-attack action or a defense reaction in their hand. Well, but they kind of go into the tank here. So we'll let them think for a little bit. So yep, it looks like they passed. Coming in for all 6. Let's see what they have in their hand to block this, right? Boom, Peace of Mind. Not a bad card to have right here. They're stopping 2 of the 6, and they get a Ponder token. So it's pretty good play, actually. But it is 11-16 here, right? Freewheeling Renegades. Unfortunately, in this format, that card just doesn't perform as well as I hope it did. It's kind of awkward card in this format. Like, I'm going to block, so it's really not going to do any damage. But we have Destructive Deliberation, Sneak Attack, and Plunge, right? I'm kind of just considering what to block with here. So it's only going to come in for 1. Not bad, right? We're gonna go ahead and Dagger once again. Dagger is just doing so much work in this format. But they do have a 5-card hand. They're doing pretty good at keeping large hands, So once again, gonna have to think, how much damage do I really need to take from this Dagger, right? Like, how much chip damage is a Dagger going to be allowed to do throughout a game? Sometimes it does like 10, It's crazy. So let them think. Okay. So it looks like they're just going to take the Dagger after quite a bit of deliberation. They're going to send in a Infect or a Wither for 1. I mean, very clear sign that I'm going to be swapping something in probably, right? But I also I might not. Right? That's the power of Uzuri. They don't know. And then boom, they block with a piece of armor, and I'm going to swap it in once again. This time coming in for 5. Got that on hit. 4 more damage down. Right? They're at 6-15. We pulled Virulent, which is just a delicious card to have in our arsenal. And so, boom. Game plan is doing what it's supposed to do. Dominate, combat tricks. Unfortunately, we didn't draw a swap target here. So we're really going to be wanting to look at like Dagger, Virulent, right? That's most likely our play. But they just daggered us twice. Oh, and then we get a full Blood Rot on this play, which is when that card comes in for 0 for 5 here. Yes, we overblocked, but 0 for 5. And then they come in with an Infiltrate, which is kind of scary because we're both assassins, so we know that they can use our card here. So we don't get the Dagger Virulent. We're just going to Dagger Virulent here, which is kind of unfortunate. And our opponent, can they pay for the Blood Rot? They do, and they pitch a Codex of Frailty. Oh, so bad. Rough having to pitch that card, but that is a very big power play on us there. So yep, Dagger. They're going to go into the tank. We'll let them think. And then boom, they're going to eat it once again. Dagger's just doing all of the work in this game. Virulent, if they take it, they're down at 2. If they don't take it, they're getting a Blood Rot. Such a powerful card, right? Just such a good closing card. So once again, man, they're going to have to go right into the tank again. We're just threatening so much. So they block. 1 card from hand. They're willing to get that Blood Rot. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. Right? They're going over it a little bit once again. They're just going to eat it. Going down to 2. Right now they're stuck. Now daggers are basically lethal. And we have our red Death Touch here. So we have the Wombo combo. We have the blue into Short and Sharp into Death Touch. No way they're going to live through this turn, right? No way. So, we've kind of got it sealed here, most likely, right? Depending on what they throw. So they got a Prowl 3 go again. It's a pretty decent hand. I don't want to block, I don't think. Just going to take 3, unless they have a combat trick here. Nope. So we just took 3. Then they're going to Dagger. Still don't really want to block. There's no way they can present 11. I don't think there's any set of cards they can have that would present 11 as Arachne with 2 cards left. So they're kind of thinking again. Dagger again. So yeah, no way they can present 11 here. The only thing that would really ruin my day is like a Frailty token, It wouldn't even really ruin it that bad. You'll see. So I think they forgot to press the button here. So we'll let them. Yep, I've refreshed the page, right? I was like, oh, is it stuck? So yeah, I think they just forgot to press because they have an attack reaction or something in their hand. Or their helmet, right? And then boom, frailty token. Unfortunate. But they hit us with both daggers. There's no way we're giving up this whole hand to block this. So, you know, sucks, but what can you do, right? I mean, we no longer can rip cards with our daggers on top of the attack reaction. But you know what's kind of funny? is we can say something along the lines of like, well, I guess I got to dump my hand. You know, we're going to throw a 0 dagger at them. What does this mean? I'm basically telling them I have an attack reaction in my hand. So you give me, and this is kind of like a weirdly perfect situation because like they can throw a card in front of this dagger. And then I'm just going to dagger again. And I rip 2 cards out. And then I'm just going to play Malign. That's 3 cards. And they're down to a 1-card hand. And I'm just going to do this for the rest of the game. So it's kind of like they have to either call our bluff here and hope we don't have it, or we're going to absolutely fatigue them forever. As soon as they block this dagger, they're committing to the fact that they're going to be blocking 3+ cards a turn. And they really shouldn't, they can't do that. And if they overblock, I'm just going to keep the short and sharp and I'm going to threaten it for the rest of the game, right? It's kind of like the pummel trap. Like, you know your opponent's going to pummel you, but can you really do anything about it? Because as soon as you do something about it, you give up your own game plan. So yeah, our opponent's kind of like, he even said, he's like, is this a short and sharp, man? Come on, you know? But yeah, it's like the perfect trap, right? No matter what happens, we win. Short and sharp will go in our arsenal for the rest of the game. If they don't block our daggers with more than 1 card, eventually they'll die. And so they're just 100% going to get fatigued here. 100%. So let our opponent think for a little bit about what they're going to block with. They choose not to, and we show them that we had it, right? That's game. So yeah, I mean, everything went exactly according to plan. We blocked really well. We attacked really well. Our combat tricks ended up winning. And yeah, that was perfect. Okay, game 2 against Azalea. This is Jay over on the Bauble. He's a nuts player, man. Very, very talented. Those Canadians really know how to draft. They're really good at it. So I was kind of nervous. But once again, I kind of opened up going first. I don't really want to let Azalea have a free dominate on turn 0. Like, that doesn't sound fun to me. So I went with first. And then, again, idea is they have more cards in their deck than I do, which is scary. So I really want to try and fatigue him. It's kind of the goal. So he sends 2 cards at it. We got 3 cards out of their deck, 29 to 28. Not as many as I would have liked. I would have loved to send another dagger at him. But we have Isolate and Death Touch, which is a pretty sick combo to have. You know what I mean? But they're going to open up Barbed Castaway. Very strong. Azalea has Dominate, so we don't really have as much time as we do against other heroes to really like fatigue. And also Azalea is pretty weird. It's kind of hard to fatigue an Azalea because their arrows just do good damage, right? So they're gonna opt the synergies he managed to pull off with this deck was kind of nuts, right? Like the amount of opt and dominate that he was able to just consistently get was crazy to me. It was a very fluid Azalea deck. It was crazy. So 6 dominate, leaking 3 damage. Not our favorite thing to have happen already, but it is what it is. You know, nothing you can really do about it. He set up everything really well. Ravenous Rabble and Death Trap to the bottom. You'll notice that the Rabble being pitched is really important because he likes to have a Rabble for the fatigue matchups at the end where it just comes in for its max value because there's no cards to flip, which is cool. Learned that from him, which is really interesting. So here I'm threatening, Dagger, and he gives us a full Lace with Blood Rot. That is a delicious card to have him block with, but that means the rest of his hand is pretty gas. And then here we're just going to come in, Isolate, Dominate. We're going to swap in our Death Touch. Going to hope he doesn't have a trap, and he didn't. So we're going to give him a Blood Rot. That's a 2-card 8, basically. Pretty great. Blood Rot Trap, which is so strong into Azalea. Kind of unfortunate timing though, because we drew it on a turn where, you know, we didn't really like give him enough space to, you know, buff a card. So it's like I really would like to keep that Death Trap, but then I'm giving up my entire turn. So I'm kind of going in the tank here. It's like, oh man, like, do I save the Blood Rot and do I just block with 2 cards? Like, what do I do? But I think I kind of thought through it and I was like, all right, well, there's no way for me to really get rid of that attack reaction in my arsenal. So it's not like I can keep Blood Rot and just put it in my pocket. So unfortunately, we're going to have to block with Blood Rot on one of the few turns where it doesn't do anything, which sucks because against Azalea, that card's so strong, right? So we're just going to block with a 2-block and then defense react, block all 5, no on hit for us. His Blood Rot will fire. And he'll take it. So it's going to go down. And then we're just going to send Destructive Deliberation just right at him, right? Unfortunate, it's only a 2 for 5 also. It's like really just kind of a bad play here. There's nothing else we could really do, though. Because since we have a card in our arsenal, you know, what does a Ponder do? Nothing, you know? Doesn't do anything. So, you know, he's thinking like, oh man, like, should I let this hit? 5 damage is a lot. But, you know, ultimately, I think the Ponder token not doing anything is kind of like a sign where he's like, okay, this is probably my tempo turn, right? This is a pretty bad turn from us. So if he can present a lot of damage to us, then taking 5 here is pretty good. So it's 17-10 though. Pretty nice, but he's not blocking that much. So like our fatigue idea is not really going to work out for us here, you know? And then Disgusting. Lace with Frailty. Load. Would have loved to have a Blood Rot Trap this turn, huh? But that's okay. Spire Sniping. He's going to opt again. This guy just... The synergies he managed to pull off is freaking crazy. So you're putting the cards back on the top of his deck. And then I think they're another buff. Oh my goodness. Spire Sniping. So I think we just got a little lucky here that he didn't hit a Dominate card. Like there was no arrows on the top of his deck in those 2 slots. So we just got a little lucky here. And once again, we're kind of like in this weird place where it's like we don't do very much with our hand here. You know, no swapping cards. 2 blues for our Razor's Edge to hit, which kind of sucks. So yeah, not very good at all. Like so bad that it's like, what do I even do? Do I just dagger and then try and attack react them with like short and sharp? That's so many resources for so little damage, especially since he's shown us a pattern of blocking a lot so far. Like he's not afraid to throw cards down. So it's like, we might not even get value out of short and sharp. You know, he's a very good player too. So he might recognize the fact that it's like, why'd you keep 2 cards if you're just going to dagger with an arsenal? So here I chose to just block it all. Especially since Frailty was going to hit us. It's like I'm sending a naked dagger at him. It's like the biggest telegraph that it's going to be a defense or attack reaction, right? Like he's a good enough player to immediately recognize that I'm going to short and sharp him. So let's throw 10 down, buy us a new turn, hopefully get one that's a little bit better so we can do something. And once again, we don't have any swap targets. So our deck is just being mean to us at this point, right? We're just drawing all of our blues in a row. So honestly, at this point, I'm kind of desperate to the point where it's probably going to be isolate into chip 2 with Razor's Edge. It's probably what we're going to end up doing here because like I'm just desperate to get him lower. So I stop wasting all my cards. Right? I'm losing the fatigue battle at this point. I'm losing it pretty bad. And it would be better. Best case scenario is I can dagger isolate a Razor's Edge, right? Ugh. Lace with Frailty again. So now our dagger plan just disintegrated. Yep. Dagger plan just disappeared before our eyes. So now we know what we're doing. We're blocking. Pretty easy call here. Just going to block. And we're going to try and chip in 2 damage. Get him down to 8. And then whittle him down from there, you know? So boom. Going to send it at us. 6. So, you know, with the frailty on hit, I would love to have taken 3 and daggered, but I can't. So we're just going to block it. We're just preventing damage. If we continuously chip him down without really taking that much, that means that eventually when he's really low, we can eat an entire buff turn of his damage and then just strip his entire hand. So that's kind of what my game plan right now is, right? And he attack reacted us. He's going to give us that frailty token, unfortunately. Taking the 1. But luckily it didn't really hurt our plans at all. So dominate. You know, it's kind of an interesting signal too. We're basically signaling we have an attack reaction because we can't swap our arsenal target in with our hero ability. So it's either the card in our arsenal is waiting, or, you know, it's a Razor's Edge, right? But it has been there for a while, so it's probably kind of hard to tell if it's like worth it or at all, right? So he's just going to eat it. Boom. We're coming in for 5. That's pretty good. We got way closer to 0 now with that play. 5 to 16. We're pretty steadily in the lead. Unfortunately, drew a short and sharp with no blue here. I would have loved to have a blue with that one. But, you know, putting it in our arsenal for the future is probably a good idea. And then just kind of like threatening a wither with a Razor's Edge is probably what we would want to do here, right? And just throw our equipment down. Just keep that tempo turn, right? Even if he sends like 10 at us. Ugh, so much power coming out. Another Fletch, man. So 8 dominate. Luckily, the dominate makes our decision a lot easier. So we're probably going to send Wither and then Razor's Edge it. Keep the short and sharp for next turn. Take 5, unfortunately. Yep. So he's closing the gap, but it's still pretty healthy gap, a pretty healthy lead we have here, right? So Wither, frailty token. Now I could have just daggered Withered, would have ripped the same amount of cards and threatened possibly more, right? It would have technically threatened more because he would have thought that it was like it might have even threatened more cards. Like we would have gotten possibly 3. But I kind of got stuck. This is probably the wrong play, to be honest. I probably should have Razor's Edged, dagger, or pitched my Razor, daggered, sent Wither, and bluffed that I was going to swap it in with a 6. And that way I could have gotten 3 cards instead of just 2. Because here all he has to do is throw down 2 cards, and he doesn't take any damage like this. So now I'm stuck with Razor's Edge. So yeah, that was probably a misplay. I should have daggered. But you know, you live and you learn. Still no blues, kind of sucks. But we do have a pretty hot turn here. Looking for scrap, dagger, feisty locals. And then we can block with anything, right? So we got even luckier, unfortunately for him. So unfortunate it stuck like that. 1, 4, go again. Yep, gonna take the 1. Gonna dagger. Rip as many cards as we possibly can. So just beautiful, beautiful. Get that short and sharp. Now he's gonna die, right? So he has to use his prevention equipment here. Jeez, so much damage, man. This turn was disgusting. So he's gonna have to Seekers. Prevent the dagger from hitting, giving up an entire card. Prevent the dagger from killing him. The dagger still hits, so it's still reducing his block values. And then we're gonna send feisty locals, which as soon as he puts a card down, is gonna come in for 5. So he's gonna have to put down both cards and his helmet to stop this from killing him. Yep, 2, 4, 5. Unfortunately, he had no non-attack actions in his hand to make that easier. So all of his equipment's gone. He's at 1 health. Now it's fatigue game, right? It's pretty much in the bag. Nothing he can really do unless we just draw all reds for the rest of the game. You know? So boom. We're just going to take this. No need to do anything else. We're just going to eat it. We have a huge lead. This is exactly what having that health buffer is for. And then we're going to, we're going to rabble, isolate, sneak attack. I came in for 4 again. I have so many blues. I can't believe how much work Rabble's doing for me in these games. But yeah, 4 go again. Give me 2 cards, please. Isolate. I'm trying to kill him with Dominate here, right? Should be a clean, easy win. Swap it in with Sneak Attack. And he managed to find the D-React just in time. So he's living another turn. I can't believe how well he's staying alive. I mean, not that it's pretty rough, but I just can't believe how he's staying alive this long. Dagger. So yep, just fatiguing game plan over and over and over again. Dagger, fatiguing game plan. Isolate. Do you have another D-React? There's no way you do. I haven't seen them pitched. The boulder shot was the only, or the boulder trap was the only one I saw pitched. Unless you have like a brush off and boom, game. So stuck to our game plan there. Blocked really well. Combat tricks did most of the damage. Got him into that low range and then, fatigued him with daggers, right? Easy, easy, easy. All right, final game of the pod versus Benji. Team Foundry member Justin Salmon. Very, very good player also. So this was not an easy pod. Benji is really an interesting hero because unblockable damage is a real threat at the end of the game. They chose to go first, but unblockable damage is really scary at the end of the game. And some of these Benji decks just do damage, like a lot of damage. It's weird because some of the most successful ones I've seen so far do like Kadachi small attack into a 6 with an on hit. And that's like really, really hard to deal with, It really depends how many 0-cost blues they get. So they went first, hoping to try and chip in some free Benji damage on turn 0. I unfortunately think that backfired in this matchup and probably in general, because I managed to block everything because they didn't end up getting that 2 damage or that below 2 damage threshold going. So I got to just choose to block, taking a Kadachi here, and then they go to end step. So they only managed to chip in 1 damage, and I get to keep a rabble and a short and sharp, but I didn't get a blue, unfortunately. And would you look at that? That 1 rabble is coming for 12 damage across all 3 games. That's kind of gross, right? So yeah, I just retaliate here, right? And starting at 17 health is a pretty bad deficit, even with that high skill ceiling or power ceiling that Benji has. Like, I just started 3 health ahead. So this rabble's putting me 4 health ahead, and then I'm going to attack again, right? So it's kind of crazy how strong this is, It's kind of crazy. So I'm kind of stuck here. Infect coming in for 2. And we can short and sharp this, right? I'd like to keep a defense reaction against Benji because, you can block from Arsenal against his hero ability. But I'm going to short and sharp it and give him a blood rat. So this short and sharp came in for 5, right? 1 for 5 because of that blood rot there. So 3 damage over and a blood rot. Look at what happened to his health, man. Starting at 17 is hard. I think going second on Benji is the right play. So he's just going to come in for 5. And we don't care that much. Get your ponder token. It doesn't really matter. Actually, we're going to defense react it, whatever. We have our own destructive deliberation to be dealt with. So he's all the way down at 11 in one rotation. 11. So yeah, he's started the game off with like just so far behind that even if he had a massive turn, we're probably okay for the rest of the game. It's pretty brutal. Pretty brutal. So yep, dominate. It was kind of crazy. Like halfway through this game, we played together so much that he was like just calling out everything I was doing, but he couldn't stop it, So it's crazy. So yep, 2 dominate, sending it clean. He's going to block 2. Benji sucks at blocking. Probably another reason you should go second on Benji. Going to swap it in, do a clean 5. go 3 over, and get our ponder token unless he has something he can do to stop our damage. And we're bantering back and forth at this point, right? Like, he is. I think he's a little. He's calling out everything I'm doing, but you know, he just doesn't have the cards in hand to really do anything about it, which is just unfortunate. But okay, boom, it's 8-19, and we got a stealth card to put in our arsenal. Disgusting. Only thing stopping us right now is that we don't have a blue in pocket. So we're gonna have to block with a blue to turn on looking for scrap. So we're gonna want to looking for scrap, dagger into isolate, or we'll block with one of the cards and then just send our blue in our arsenal at him. Or we can get really crazy and use our helmet, right? So yeah, just reviewing. Nope, don't have anything to turn looking for scrap into anything. Can't block this card either. I was really hoping to block with a blue, but Benji's ability is stopping me from doing that. Be like water 5, so much damage. It's a pretty sick line already, right? This is the power of Benji. That's a lot of damage going through right now. So we're just gonna scrap our idea of playing looking for scrap, and then he just 5 again. Look how strong that turn was, right? It's kind of nuts. It's kind of nuts. Yep. So unfortunately, we're just going to take it. And so we activate our helmet, and then he immediately sees that we he literally says to me, you have a dominate card in your hand, and then we hit the sneak attack off the top, and he was so mind blown. It was like, I can't believe this is happening to me, right? So we're gonna get a free spider's bite, and I was like laughing. You know, we're just going back and forth at this point, kind of laughing. I get a free spider's bite into an isolate, which he called. He's like, you have a dominate card in your hand. You're gonna sneak attack me with that dominated card. There's nothing I can do about it. So yep, gonna dagger into isolate into sneak attack, which is disgusting. So he has to think about how much damage he's willing to give up, right? Either way, he's losing a health, which is kind of interesting if you think about it. This dagger is worth 1 damage, and if he doesn't block it, sneak attack is going to come in for 1 additional damage, most likely. So it's kind of like assassin daggers are just so valuable, man. They're just so valuable. The flexibility they have is kind of crazy to me. I mean, Kodachis are better in some circumstances. You know, like you can pitch 1 card in double Kodachi versus you have to pitch 2 cards to double Spider's Bite. But the rest of the situation, I would say Kodachis are a little bit weaker outside of that like pure fatigue mindset. So yep, I was like, yep, you're right. Here's the dominate card. You can't believe it. Everything that could go right for me in this game is going right for me. Everything that could go wrong for him is going wrong. So what is he going to give us? You know, what kind of card is he going to throw down? Let him think for a little bit. Give us a 2. Uzuri, swap in. Going to take 4. Going down to 3. Gross, right? And we drew short and sharp. My favorite thing in the world. So, I mean, we have a decent way to just play isolate into Razor's Edge. That would close the game. You know, we could try and dagger into pitch Razor's Edge, short and sharp into Wither. That's a pretty decent way to rip all his cards. So we have a couple ways to close it here. And he literally is like, you have isolate and a combat reaction, don't you? And I just laughed because it's like, how do you know? But yeah, he's kind of going on the tank thinking if there's any way he can claw his way out of this, right? I was kind of looking at his equipment. He does have like Mask of Many Faces. He could trigger an interesting combat trick here with like Mask into a really big combo. There's a possibility he could claw his way out of this, but it's unlikely, right? Okay, so he is going to activate Mask of Many Faces. So he's definitely going for a combo line of some sort. Unfortunately, I had to pitch a blue humble for that, but that's okay. But it wasn't a 0-cost blue, so like he is missing out on quite a bit of damage here from that, right? Two Kodachis worth of damage, I guess. So he's kind of going through his entire like thoughts on what his list looks like, what his combos that he has left in the deck are, going through his graveyard, all of that kind of hard stuff to think about when you're playing Benji. He managed to pull the Majestic. We passed that card to him, I guess. So he may search his deck for a combo card and then shuffle. It's basically triggering Katsu's ability. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. So we take quite a bit of damage here. Can't stop it. He's going to go search for a card. Pulled 1-2 punch. And so this is actually kind of broken. We talked about this for a little bit. So he broke his boots there to give it go again. So I should actually be at 5 because of Talishar. There was like the mask didn't trigger the on hit. So instead of being at 7, I should be at 5. So that was a massive turn. Massive turn. That was pretty gross, right? If it wasn't for the fact we pulled so far ahead, we would be in trouble here. So we're just going to, we're looking at it, trying to figure out what's going on here. So I'll just skip to our turn. Okay, so it's our turn now, and we have all of the ways in the world to win. We're going to pitch that Isolate, and we're going to threaten. If he overblocks here, then we're just going to play Wither into Razor's Edge. And if he underblocks, we're going to Short and Sharp him. And he knew we had it somehow. He was like, you have it, don't you? We do. So it's pretty simple, It's like, I'm just laughing because he called it, and there's still nothing he could do about it because it's the Pummel conundrum, right? I have it, but like, do you give up your whole turn and possibly the entire game because I might have it? Right? It's kind of hard. So he's going to Seekers. He gets to live. Unfortunately for us, he's going to go down to 1. And then this Wither is going to come in for... Oh, nope, he died. I forgot. So that's it. That's all 3 games. Thank you guys so much for joining me this time. It was really fun. Tune in next week. This coming Thursday, there'll be another event. And I'm hoping to have one every week for the next couple weeks. Have a great day.